Good afternoon and welcome. I hope you can all hear me. My name is Rebecca Kangare, the IT Director here at Uganda Christian University. We're happy to host all of you here. I hope that you will learn a thing or two, myself included. We're here to discuss how to be successful in this digital era, how to thrive. As we are all aware, technology has greatly evolved with advances in artificial intelligence, machine learning, the Internet of Things, and many, many more things that are around us. We have come a long way from listening to radio on, on those, like in the car and on those stereo devices, to having podcasts on our phones and listening to Spotify and listening to the music that we want on the go. We've come from looking for special hires at that taxi stage to calling Ubers to come and pick us up wherever we want, to having things like voice-activated lights in houses, to having ChatGPT that can now help us with our homework or coursework, and many more things like that. So the question comes that with all these technological advances, how are we going to live in this digital era? Here to tell us a little bit about that, how to live successfully, especially when it comes to our professional lives, some leading industry experts. We have Diana Tukundane-Agaba, who's the head information technology at Stanbic, and Priscilla Mutebi, who is a technology and privacy lawyer and has a wealth of expertise in this area. I will allow them to introduce themselves as they start their presentations. And here at the university, we all know that to thrive at the university, we need to be able to use our management information system, which is we fondly call Alpha. And so the MIS administrator, Christopher Tibenkana, will round their presentations up by telling us a little bit of what's critical to know in Alpha. So without saying much more, I would like Diana to introduce herself, tell us a little bit about herself.
Right. Thank you, Rebecca, for the invite. And I hope that I will be able to make you proud and do the topic justice. Maybe as I dive in, I'll just put on my camera for, okay, the host didn't allow that. So, but at least I have a picture so that the team on call doesn't think they're speaking to a robot. Diana Agaba Tukundane is my name. I look after information security at Stanbic Bank. Prior to that, I did telecommunications engineering, so I've been in the technology world for a while, right from university. But from where I am and what drives me is really to inspire and share the little knowledge that I have accumulated over the years that I've been in the working industry with students, with professionals that either want to pivot in the field that I'm in, and ask of me to share any knowledge that I may have. So happy to be here and hope I will be able to deliver as Rebecca expects. Rebecca is the other presenter first introducing themselves, or I can dive into my portion of the presentation?
Well, she can. Priscilla, kindly go ahead and introduce yourself. My name is Rebecca Kangare, the IT Director here at Uganda Christian University. We're happy to host all of you here. I hope that you will learn a thing or two, myself included. We're here to discuss how to be successful in this digital era, how to thrive. As we are all aware, technology has greatly evolved with advances in artificial intelligence, machine learning, the Internet of Things, and many, many more things that are around us. We have come a long way from listening to radio on, on those, like in the car and on those stereo devices, to having podcasts on our phones and listening to Spotify and listening to the music that we want on the go. We've come from looking for special hires at that taxi stage to calling Ubers to come and pick us up wherever we want, to having things like voice-activated lights in houses, to having ChatGPT that can now help us with our homework or coursework, and many more things like that. So the question comes that with all these technological advances, how are we going to live in this digital era? Here to tell us a little bit about that, how to live successfully, especially when it comes to our professional lives. Some leading industry experts. We have Diana Tukundane Agaba, who's the head information technology at Stanbic, and Priscilla Mutebi, who is a technology and privacy lawyer and has a wealth of expertise in this area. I will allow them to introduce themselves as they start their presentations. And here at the university, we all know that to thrive at the university, we need to be able to use our management information system, which is we fondly call Alpha. And so the MIS administrator, Christopher Tibenkana, will round their the presentations up by telling us a little bit of what's critical to know in Alpha. So without saying much more, I would like Diana to introduce herself, tell us a little bit about herself.
Right. Thank you, Rebecca, for the invite, and I hope that I will be able to make you proud and do the topic justice. Maybe as I dive in, I'll just put on my camera for. Okay, the host didn't allow that, so but at least I have a picture so that the team on call doesn't think they're speaking to a robot. Diana Agawa Tukundane is my name. I look after information security at Stanbic Bank. Prior to that, I did telecommunications engineering, so I've been in the technology world for a while, right from university. But from where I am and what drives me is really to inspire and share the little knowledge that I have accumulated over the years that I've been in the working industry with students, with professionals that either want to pivot in the field that I'm in and ask of me to share any knowledge that I may have. So happy to be here and hope I will be able to deliver as Rebecca expects. Rebecca is the other presenter first introducing themselves, or I can dive into my portion of the presentation?
Well, she can. Priscilla, kindly go ahead and introduce yourself. She may be having some connectivity challenges. So Diana, you can go ahead with your presentation while she sets up.
All right. I'm sharing my screen. You let me know if you can see it, if I carry on. Are you able to see my screen?
Yes, perfect, we can see.
All right. Cool. Yeah, that is me. In a nutshell, I'm passionate about cybersecurity. I am passionate about mentoring the young and upcoming talent in tech, but also within the cybersecurity space where I tend to have the expertise. So from the topic of thriving in the information or digital age, and Rebecca has really painted the picture bigger than what I'm showing here on the screen, but to just highlight what digital age is. And for the majority of the people that I imagine I have on the call, you must have grown up in this era, so you do not have a differentiator or a comparison of what a non-digital age was. Given that when we talk of digital age, we're looking at the era from the 80s onwards with the introduction of the World Wide Web, having your first Google search engine, like we've said, to a point where we are now, and the acceleration that happened around digital with COVID pushing us even out of the classrooms. because who knew that we could have our lectures remotely and still be able to complete a semester and actually graduate. But that is where we are, and that's where the digital age is taking us, without even elaborating on the nuances of artificial intelligence and machine learning that is really taking over some of the tasks, some of the courses that we go to school for. And now, digital is telling me, you know what, you don't need a marketeer. I can do all your digital marketing at a go. So with that appreciation that we are on an accelerated journey when it comes to digital, what does it mean to all of us or any of us at this point in our lives? I thought I would try and paint the picture of who I believe my audience is right now. From a university point of view, I believe if we have lecturers on the call, then they are the ones that can clearly appreciate the distinction of when we lived in a non-digital age and when we are living currently in the digital age. And it's not that technology wasn't there before the 1980s, but it was more of system, but with a lot of manual intervention. So you knew you can make a call with the boomers, that generation of the people that are above 40s and the like. But right now, we are in an era where, communication is around, let me share a selfie, and everyone should be able to tell how I'm feeling through the selfie that I have shared, or let me do a TikTok video to communicate whatever I want to communicate around that. And as we interact within our environment at university, where we have the people that have had to transition and adopt the digital age, and those that have grown up in the digital age, and to them it's normal. They don't see the big deal about why should we talk about digital and the need for us to thrive. I think it's critical to have that comparison of what we now call digital natives and digital immigrants. Like I've said, most of professors that we have in universities have grown up in the era where, you had to have a hard copy book to get information. You had to rely on a lecturer telling you everything you need to know, and you had to take it as a gospel truth, to a point where a digital native is able to challenge a lecturer and say, you know what, no, you told me that this is a definition, and I've Googled, and Google is telling me something else. But the other thing you have to ask yourself at that time is Google telling me the right thing? Can I trust Google to be as authentic as it says it is? And that creates the fact that whether you are born in the digital age, or what we call the natives right now, you find you still have something that you learn from the immigrants, and vice versa. While the digital age has accelerated how you do things, you can multitask, you can, you like to receive information very fast, you prefer to learn through games and not, someone writing on the blackboard. You prefer using technology, you're more around graphics, they communicate more to you than text. There are still ounces that you can pick from the digital immigrants, because they know how to achieve goals in a systematic way. They have been in that more of a structured kind of learning or way of life, where it is from one step to another, one generation to another, while the journey that we are in within the digital age now is overly accelerated. When you think you're learning how to do something, and a new way of doing it in a simpler manner comes up, and how do you quickly pivot and learn the new way so that you are staying relevant within the ecosystem that we're operating in, I think is critical, and will be my main delivery here of saying, what are those skill sets, what are those tools, what are those things that I need to mind about to be able to thrive? Because technology has come and made everything easy and simple. They give you a coursework. You can even type the question word for word and you get the answer online. And the question is that, do I need to revise? Do I need to apply myself to really understand, or even challenge the test status quo? So those are nuances that the digital age is bringing in, that asks us to say, if I need to set myself apart from, we are all using technology to do things, but how do I distinct myself to show an organization that I am delivering additional skill sets, additional value beyond the technology that now is business as usual. Gone are the days where people that did engineering and were in computer science were the ones who are looked at as they know how to use the computer. Right now, my boy in primary 2 sometimes does things on their tab and I'm like, how did you do that? And I'm in technology. And it shows you the level of exposure of exposure that we're getting out of technology, and showing that technology is here and is taking away a lot of the burden that we used to really have effort to do. And if that is taken away, how do we then still stay relevant and actually succeed and win and grow in the digital age? And I love mind maps, and what this mind maps really concentrates on is how the teaching and learning characteristics have evolved within the digital age. And given that you're still at universities, some of these are the habits that you have to carry on within as you start your career journey. But it's also to say, do I appreciate the changes that have come and how am I applying myself to those changes? For example, for a student, the overly reliance on a teacher has gone away. The expectation that I'll go in the classroom and the teacher will read out notes for me and I write all the notes and that's what I'll reference to make me, the expert that I want to be, are long gone. With the digital age, it's saying, yes, the teacher can give you guidance, can be your supervisor, your mentor, facilitate any inquiries that you have, but you have to have an independent learning mindset. You have to find it within yourself to self-motivate, to self-regulate as you learn. And the beauty is that it then helps you to have an individualized learning style. Before, we would be put in a class and we are all at a different pace. We pick up, stuff at different pace, but the teacher is still teaching all of you as if your capacity to learn is the same. The digital age is, breaking those barriers for us. But how do we take that back and utilize it for our own good? When we look at the evolution of around education, we now have digital textbooks, we have online curriculum, we have to become long life learners, because like I said, today you think you know artificial intelligence and how chatbots work, and now we tell you ChatGPT is here, that you do not even have to feed it any question so that it is scripted to answer specific questions. It's telling you anything you ask me, I'll be able to give you an answer. And how do you then pivot to utilizing it for the good that will set you apart? So this is a wide scope of what the digital age looks like, without even diving into social media and what it means for us in a digital age. When you're at campus and you still are living life, you feel eager to share anything that you want to share on your social media, be it on Facebook, be it on Twitter. But I can tell you that the first time you apply for a job and you are shortlisted for an interview, HR people now, yes, over and above asking you for a reference, they have their own reference. They are able to do their due diligence by just typing your name in a search engine. And what comes out of how you have managed your brand on the social media could be standing between you and the future that you yearned or worked for the many years that you have been at university attending whichever course you're doing. So you find that with this kind of exposure, it calls on us to have a different kind of skill set to be able to thrive and win within the digital age. And what does that mean? Like I said, we are all digital now. My 10-year-old son can challenge me digitally, and I will allow I don't know something, because maybe for him he has enough time to sit and, you know, be on the internet more than I am. I'll go there targeted with, I want to know about cybersecurity and threat intelligence. But for him, he's just on a discovery journey. So with that, to say that, yes, as students, you have been, equipped with all this technology that is making how you work efficiently, or with teachers that now have to actually pivot and adapt to what technology brings. The key thing that we have to, the key skill sets that now we have to build are not technical, but rather what we call, soft skills. And these are the skills that will enable you to thrive. And why are these soft skills are important? Over and above you being a digital native and knowing your technology, we are saying, can we make you a digital responsible citizen that will consume this information with caution, that will be able to look at information and discern and evaluate whether this is right or wrong. And that's where digital literacy comes in to say your ability to use information and communication technologies. One, to find the information that you need using whatever technology that you have at your exposure. Two, being able to evaluate and determine the validity of that information is also critical. I think one of the things that we continuously highlight around the likes of ChatGPT as generative AI is the fact that it doesn't give you the source. And when it comes to studying and writing your thesis or reports, we know that we expect you to have to reference your source properly, so that we are able to ascertain if there's any level of plagiarism or not. Some of the AIs that we currently have are not smart to be able to tell you, you know what, this is where I got this information, because it's getting, large data and combining it and quickly running it through its logic to give you the answers that you want. So once you have gotten that information from whichever technology you use, are you able to evaluate it and apply yourself? And that's where things like critical thinking then comes into play as a skill. And you could say, I've been thinking all my life. What is that? What makes critical thinking different from the way I think? Is to say, and in cybersecurity, you have what we call a zero trust. To say, yes, I have received you, I've received this information, but before I even share it out, before I turn into a distributor of fake news, I am able to verify it before it goes on. The other component of digital literacy is how creative you have to be to also start creating your own content. To be able to say, okay, I've gotten all this information, I've applied myself, and this is my reasoning that is similar to any of this content that I'm looking at, or a different opinion that I have generated out of the information I've gotten, and then being able to publish that for the next generation to also consume as you become a contributor to the digital age that we are living in. The other key component of digital literacy is around communication and how you convey that information via technology is critical. I mentioned something about branding and how you communicate, what you say, how you type. Sometimes you get a WhatsApp message from the Generation Z and you're like, oh my goodness. That their teachers, if their English teachers could see this, they could turn in their grave, because you've turned the whole English language into something else. But we're saying that can be for your own consumption. If you want to thrive, if you're getting into the field of, work, there are certain habits you have to unlearn because of the exposure you have had, and start saying, you know what, I will apply myself over and above getting this free information so that it is meaningful to whoever is receiving it. So some of the skills, and you'll see that none of this is really technology, or none of these you'll find a course that is saying bachelors of critical thinking. We're saying if you want to thrive, if you want to stand out, enter a room and how you interpret the information you're receiving. Someone can say that is a critical thinker. Digital age takes away boundaries, and we are meant to collaborate and interact with, different cultures. I am right here in Kampala and speaking to you at UCU. I could have been anywhere in the world. And that's what digital has brought, to say, you know what, I can collaborate with someone from China and we bring our minds together and build something. But having that awareness of saying that the cultural differences still exist, and how do I navigate them and still stay respectful as I thrive, or as I enter the workforce within this digital age, is very critical. So high level, I said, for students and for anyone who is, trying to thrive, these are some skills that you must have. And I know I've talked about it. Communication skills. Some of us think we can talk, we can speak, we can write, but what are you writing? This is where you start evaluating and sieving through what you're writing and trying to communicate so that you don't get lost in translation. The other thing that is critical is the ability to learn independently. And it will call on all these other skills of thinking, of analyzing that I've talked about, to say, I have this pool of knowledge. How do I consume it that it's constructive and building to myself and to the profession I want to be? Ethics and responsibility. Cyberbullying exists on the online. Now that, we used to think you'll only be bullied when you're in school. Someone can find you online and bully you. Or you receive information, you don't know how true it is. Something starts running on social media, this person is dead. Without thinking, you're also starting to share everywhere, or even post on your social media. How do you discern and say, you know what? If I can't, ascertain the source of this information, then it's not for me to share. The other thing that is needed is teamwork and flexibility. Now we're used to sit in the room and work together, and you're able to walk from desk to desk. We are saying, no, people can be remote and work. How are you still able to be a team and deliver, even with what the digital age has brought in terms of virtual working and things like that? I'll not emphasize critical thinking. Like I said, you come highly exposed to the digital skills and technology, but the rate at which technology is evolving still requires you to be able to learn new digital skills. How do I use ChatGPT? How do I use Tom to come up with my presentation, but still get it and refine it to reflect me? Because sometimes you make a presentation and people can tell that Diana had nothing to do with the preparation of this presentation, because you failed to own what you're talking about. The last one is around knowledge management. Too much information. How do you manage it and make sure that it's useful to the purpose you want it for, is also very critical for you to thrive in the digital age. Finally, I thought I wouldn't leave the digital migrants or immigrants out, because while the natives have lived with technology and that's how it is, the natives have to continuously adapt. And I remember challenges when COVID hit and you tell people, you know what, we're going to use Zoom, and they're like, Where do I press? How do I do anything? Or if they have joined the call and their camera is on in error and you're trying to tell them, can you turn off your camera? You're not in the right place, and they struggle until they say, you know what, let me drop off this call because there's nothing much I can do in terms of enabling myself. So this is the challenge for us that are coming from the era where digital wasn't the thing that made us who we are. How do we learn to use online collaboration and communication tools? How do we leverage digital to come up with our lesson planning and resource creation? Like I said, lecturers now become more of mentors, coaches, and facilitators. And they just have to give you a high level highlight of what they want you to do and let you go and do the research and everything. How do we adopt technology within our education system and ensure that it's fully integrated and give options to different people to be able to still learn regardless of where they might be, is also critical for the lecturers to thrive in the digital era. Online safety and privacy, and it cuts across both spectrums that I've talked about. But as lecturers, you find that you're dealing with student information, which we now call personally identifiable information. So how are you protecting your students' work, your own work, as you use these digital tools? How are you password protecting what you call proprietary information to you as a lecturer if you've written a book before it's published? Are some of the skills that you'll need to thrive. I thought I would then end my presentation to say, all that is well and good, but we know that also the digital age has come with a lot of distractions and disruptions. And even at personal level, if you want to be, the best employer in an organization, you have to find a way of organizing yourself around this digital so that it doesn't become a problem to yourself. I'll use the example where this mind map talks about taking a digital detox. We have seen people in churches still, on WhatsApp or on Facebook. You're always on TV. When do you get that time to sit with yourself and reflect on your journey or where you are, to ensure that technology, over and above being an enabler, is not becoming a distraction to you growing and thriving in whatever field that you want to grow in. The other aspect is about creating rituals and habits on what you do. I'll give an example. My son knows that Monday to Friday and sometimes to Saturday, before he has done homework, he cannot touch that PlayStation. And that habit now has grown into him to say, the first time when we're starting out, I had to take away the controllers, but now the controller stays in front of him, but he will not touch it because he knows it's a habit that we've tried to put in place. So this mind map just shows you a few things that you can do. One, to manage your space, to manage how you use technology. If you're receiving emails, even managing emails alone can make you an effective worker or not. Because you'll come and find 1,000 emails and you're like, where do I start from? So how do you apportion time for different things and leave time for creativity, for being able to learn? Like we said, with the digital age, we are lifelong learners. So I thought this would paint a picture to say, over and above the soft skills that we need to thrive, how we control the digital space and ensure that it's not controlling us is critical for us to be able to succeed and to win. And it has been said over and over again that even with COVID and remote working coming in, you find that you still need that social connection. So how do you also pick those learnings that I talked about that come natural to immigrants of the digital age and also incorporate them as you live within your digital era, I think is critical to how you succeed. So finally, I thought I would leave us with a quote from Mahatma Gandhi that says that be the change that you wish to see in the world. Like I said, the only key responsibility you have for yourself is to make the best version of you as a digital citizen, on how you conduct yourself on your social medias, on how you consume this wealth of information, that it is more of a constructive and not a destructive tool to how you succeed as a student, as a future profession in whatever field that you want to pursue. Thank you, and back to you, Rebecca.
Thank you so much, Diana. I've learned a lot. I hope all of us have. I hope we can all be digitally responsive, as you've told us, digitally responsible, so that we minimize the damage caused inadvertently on social media and the different places we post our information. Let's remember to be safe on the internet, to be responsible, and those of us who are students and staff to concentrate on what we are supposed to do and not get distracted by all these digital things around us. Priscilla, you're up. Please introduce yourself and then get into your presentation.
Thank you, Rebecca. Thank you, Diana. Learned a lot. I'm Priscilla Mutevi. I'm a lawyer. I work with Huawei Technologies, their company secretary and data protection officer. And then I'm a practicing lawyer. So a couple of things. Rebecca reached out to me to speak about thriving in a digital era from a practicing lawyer perspective. So I believe I'm talking to lawyers. Hello, counsel, how are you doing? I'll be very brief, which is very rare for lawyers, but I will be. So that's me. So we are going to discuss or share about the lawyer's place, and I would love to hear from you at the end. Diana has pretty much covered what the digital era is, so I won't delve so much into that. And then some of the trends, and is the lawyer relevant in the digital era? She's touched ChatGPT and the AI, but yes, is the lawyer still relevant in the digital era? And then upping my value proposition for each and every one of us as lawyers, and then we'll interact. I'd very much like to hear from you. So briefly, really it's the time and season we live in, the digital era, where every economy, every department sector is based on information and communication technology. We see that in our interaction currently, in our education system, in the health system. If you go into the hospital and you're a patient, you're an insured patient, your information will be pulled up by your fingerprint. In the bank, we've seen some banks close so many of their physical operations, but they're operating online. So in government as well, previously the lawyer there's so many lawyers who built their careers on registering titles, on registering companies, and they made a killing because there was an information gap. But that gap has been narrowed by digitalization. Most government departments are now digitalizing. So many clerks in the law firms are very important because you needed them to get a file date, and you listen to their stories because as a lawyer, maybe you don't have the time or energy to keep walking up and down from the court. But now this is a season where I can sit on my desk and check online. There's an ECMI system for high court matters to check how far or whether the judge or magistrate or the registrar has given me a date. So this is an era where seemingly human interaction is becoming unimportant. But is it? We are living now in the fourth industrial revolution, where, as she's pointed out, technology has almost taken a human face. You just need to enter what you want, and then, the technology will give you what you want. But as we know, as you have experienced, it's not perfect, but we need to make ourselves relevant in the light of the 4IR, in the light of the digital era that we all live in, and where you're going to work council. Yeah. When we finished law school, we had to go through, when I was in law school, we had to go through the volumes, and it's very important for a lawyer to have the blue and red volumes. Today, I like to comb through the volumes, but is it quite necessary? Because now we can have everything online. Yeah, even in the law firm, we have everything online. But does that mean that the person who was trained and functional in that era is not relevant? As Diana as well pointed out, actually they may be more relevant because they are able to work with so little to achieve so much. Some of us today, or some of you today, if your computer crashed, if your phone crashed, you may not be able. Your research skills might be very limited. But we who studied in the manual era, we can balance both. So it's good to learn from both, or to have a backup. If all we have is our computers and phones, you may be rendered. You may suffer paralysis, intellectual paralysis, or career paralysis. Yeah. So trends from the lawyer's perspective in the pre and post digital era. So previously there was limited knowledge, which made the lawyer very central and very important. So I guess that's hence the noble profession. But we can no longer thrive on that importance, because people can Google, people can find out a few things for themselves, not enough probably to win a court case, but they are more knowledgeable. The client is more knowledgeable today than they were 10, 15, 20 years ago. So some specific people were custodians of knowledge. We, the lawyers, were custodians of the law at the time. Pre-digital era, processes were human-based. So you are beholden to a human being in the judiciary, in government departments, registering a title, registering a company in the registry, in the company's registry. All processes were human-based. So people were important that way, and they built a career and they made earnings off of that importance. Not so much today in the digital era. So there was limited skill interaction. I believe Diana pointed this out as well, that there were, typists were very important. When we were in school, we took our coursework to be typed out, but the queues were so long at the typing place. Now that person has been rendered perhaps obsolete, because the average student, if they cannot access the school, the common computers, then they would have their own, or they can borrow from a friend or a brother or a sister. A computer and a laptop is not so rare as it were, perhaps 10, 15 years ago. So now there are skill interactions. When my dad worked, he had a secretary, and perhaps the secretary had a secretary, and he wouldn't type to save his life. But today, almost 10 years ago, he started to learn to type, and he can type his emails, and he can type. But 30 years ago, if you had told him, the civil servant of the day or the officer of the day, it was, I think, belittling. Typing was for secretaries. But now, what are those secretaries doing? Because many a minister, a permanent secretary, a commissioner today, they can type for themselves. So now there's a lot of skill interaction. It's not, there's no bar as it was. Then the countries then were worlds apart. If you needed to talk to your relatives growing up, if I needed to talk to my relatives abroad, the call was so expensive. The people abroad to call us had to get a calling card to call Uganda, but now it's just a text away. So whatever is happening in the Western world can happen the same afternoon here, in terms of technology, in terms of the games people play. When we were growing up, the games, Nintendo, or that with the big controls, they probably came to Uganda 10 years after or 5 years after they were released in the Western world. But today, you just have to Google or look at Amazon, what's happening in the gaming world, what's happening in the clothes, the fashion. So the world is integrated today. So we can no longer afford as lawyers to lie to the client. We can no longer afford to talk our way around situations, because that time there was a knowledge gap. But today, if all you have to do is Google. So this is a good thing, and maybe not so good for a person who doesn't want to be thorough. But I believe everybody on this call, they want to be thorough. You want to be a great lawyer. You want to be a relevant lawyer in the digital era, not just talking your many words and saying nothing. Sometimes lawyers used to do that. So post-digital era, as I've been pointing out, nothing is cast in stone today. Rather, in this digital era or in the fourth industrial revolution, where technology is in everything, it's inevitable. Nothing is cast in stone. The possibilities are endless. So when you believe you have understood your client today, in the afternoon, the client is going to tell you something different, and you're going to have to manage their risk and advise them accordingly. Say Stanbic Bank is your client, you're an in-house working with Diana. Every day they are building up, more cybersecurity protocols or changing their cybersecurity. And as a lawyer, you're going to have to keep up, because she's getting agreements with her different vendors, and you are going to have to keep up and understand what Diana wants and to advise her better. So learning never ceases, as she's rightly put it. So post or in this digital era of YR, Google, Wi-Fi, internet, plus everything the opposite of the pre-digital era. There's a limited lack of information, actually. The problem we have is too much information, but there's no information gap as it were before. So meaning we have to be even way ahead of that information. We have to make research opinions all the time. I'm sure you do your coursework, you have moods in school, but it's not enough to Google something. You have to dig deeper so that you give good information, not just information. Not every information is useful or relevant. So that's the age we have to build as lawyers in this era, where everybody can Google the law. Everybody can Google any information, and even it would be very disturbing for your client to challenge you, or for the judge or magistrate to challenge you before the client, and then you're unaware. So that's the age we have to build, and we build it every day. So you're wondering, am I relevant in this digital era? Yes, lawyers are, and even probably more than we have ever been before. Why? Because all the businesses, Diana will tell you, or any other person working in an organization, Rebecca will tell you, every business, education, banking, they are governed by compliance now more than ever. And because, as we have said, the world is integrated, it's a global village. If you work in Uganda, your actions will affect your group in wherever your group is based. So you can no longer afford to say what, as Stanbic Bank Uganda or as UCU Uganda, because it's UCU, I can do what I want. But you have partners. I'm sure you have development partners. You have schools that you partner with all over the world. And our behavior, or UCU's behavior in Uganda, will affect whether or not they will want to partner with you next year or involve you in whatever development project is coming up in the next 5 years. So we are not isolated. We don't work in isolation. The point why our lawyer is relevant. Every business, profitable, non-profitable, has to comply. The cost of non-compliance has proven itself very expensive in whichever space we are, even for us as lawyers. Previously, lawyers, I don't want to outlaw firms, but yeah, we were not the most compliant. But today, it's very difficult to find a law firm worth its salt that doesn't pay its taxes, that doesn't pay NSSF. 15 years ago, it wasn't too common. But the cost of non-compliance is very expensive today, because even as a law firm, I'm speaking to you, I'm bringing it home. as if you work in a law firm or if you own a law firm, you may not be able to bid for certain business. You may not be able to win business in Stanbic Bank if your compliant docket is unclear. So even so much more for bigger organizations, for corporations, you don't want to be slapped by a URF penalty. You don't want your accounts to be garnished. Now, these are terms you understand very well. No corporation would want their accounts garnished. But this will happen if the lawyer is sleeping on their job. The lawyer in an organization, or a lawyer in a law firm with corporate clients or non-profit or schools, you are supposed to inform your organization proactively. How will you proactively advise them about their compliance needs if you're not reading, if you're not keeping abreast with the trend? My point is, yes, you are very relevant, but you have to keep yourself abreast. You have to keep yourself informed so that you're the right-hand person for your law firm, for your organization, for your business, for if you're placed in a school, wherever you are, keep yourself abreast. So I just pointed out a few. These are pointers. I can't tell you everything, but to jog your mind so that you know how to read, where to read. Regarding compliance and how useful we are, organizations like Apple, Intel, Google, they've been slapped with penalties over the course of the past 5 or so years, penalties exceeding $1 billion. And the issue is compliance. But lawyers, accountants as well, there's a whole team of advisors that are central to compliance, including cybersecurity experts like Diana. Yeah. So yes, lawyers are very relevant. Don't be jaded. Yes. So businesses, all businesses, profitable, non-profitable, they need a team of advisors. Businesses have a core. For example, UCU, it's education. So the team at UCU, their focus is to know, how do we get this school from this league to the IVS league, if that's a word. Their focus is education. That's their core. For Stanbic Bank, their core is money, growing businesses. That's their core, but not litigation. So the lawyer is supposed to be a business partner. You are supposed to be a supportive business partner so that the business does what it's supposed to do, so that the business grows its revenues, so that UCU grows its education docket, or is working well with these development partners. So you are supposed to help them perfect that by making sure that everything is right with their different regulators, by making sure they are not flaunting any laws, making sure they're not breaching any privacy of any individual. But this is you have a lot to do, and you're very relevant even in this digital era. You have to be able to know, to advise your clients, to advise your different teams, wherever the world is going to take you. Knowledge is knowledge. Your knowledge and forward knowledge is going to be your power. So yes, you are very relevant. So how do I up my value? How do I up my value proposition? Because I'm sure now you're well informed with administrative law, contract law. You know the bases. You have covered the bases, and you're going to go to LDC and cover even more bases and get your postgraduate diploma in legal practice. Yes. But when you're placed in Stanbic, how do I help Stanbic? So learning never ceases, as Diana has said. There are some trends or areas that a lawyer must keep abreast of, especially if you're going into the digital space. But even if you're in a nonprofit, because now some areas are not only constricted to a digital space. Cybersecurity, for example, you have read or you can read about all the cybersecurity attacks world over. And I mean, these cyber attackers, they do not have, they don't pick and choose. It depends on where the money is or what last week, for example, the South Africa airport, or Tembo, the immigration was down. They were filling with handwritten and using papers. They couldn't use their system. It had been attacked. That's public knowledge. You can Google it. And so there are a couple of attacks that have happened. So it doesn't, in any nonprofit, in a school, in what you think is a small organization, even us on our cell phones, you and I on our cell phones, we are prone to attack. So these are skills. This is knowledge that you should keep abreast with. Data protection and privacy. You know, we have the law, and the regulator even started to implement it. If you look at the PDP or the regulator's website, they put up a report, an investigative report against USE, the Uganda Security Exchange, and they may penalize them. And as you know, the penalty under that law is 2% of the gross revenues of the organization. So we need, to skill ourselves with this knowledge, the sustainability of a business, sustainability of an organization. This is the environmental, social, and governance of any organization. I will not go into the details, but these are pointers. I just want to open your mind that there's a lot to learn. So if you're there saying, law is easy, I have time, my friend, you have limited time. There's a lot you can do with your time to make yourself relevant in this state. What is going to give you that edge? Because you're all going to finish law school, going to get a postgraduate diploma in legal practice. But as an employer, I will give you an example. We employed a lady. She didn't know. She had just finished her LDC. But what intrigued me about her is her interest in tax. She said, I'm so interested in tax. And she told me, I learned from her in that interview, as I hope to learn from you today. I learned from her that there were organizations that had just been penalized. And she explained to me in detail why they had gotten a tax penalty and how they could have avoided it. I learned from her in that interview, and for me it was enough. I saw drive, I saw intentionality, and I saw value, because I'm not great at tax. But then when she came, then we were able even to help her with, with the tax course that she's pursuing. So this is just an example to show you how we, as lawyers, can add our value proposition, because we all have the basic training. Yes, then I'm opening your eyes. You could pick interest in any of these things along your way. Then business ethics and compliance. You know that there are ethics and compliance officers. So that's also, and who best than the lawyers? You're more than relevant. Then you're more than relevant to share knowledge in whichever place you wind up. Even in internship, that lady shared knowledge with me. So you're more than able and capable to share knowledge at whatever, now in your discussion groups, when you go into the workspace. Please never be selfish, because when we share knowledge is when we are corrected, but also is when our value is noticed. So she touched soft skills, Diana. Thank you so much. Sadly, these are underrated. When we're in law school, it was so important to know all the cases and precedents. Yes, and lawyers, or generally in education, people tend to be competitive, which is great, but you will never work in a silo. Yeah, even as lawyers, you've seen, you need each other. Discussion groups, we need each other. So what are the soft skills that would help you get ahead? Listen. When we listen, we learn so much. Yeah, we learn so much, and then we are able to speak wisely later. Yeah, but if we always want to talk, we may not be able to give informed opinions. So what do I mean listen? Not just to lawyers. In our workspaces, you interact with so many people. I like to listen to the tech people. I like to listen to the finance people, the admin, the guards. I like to listen to the receptionist. You have to listen, because information is power. When we listen is actually when we see the risk, is when we'll know what the challenge is and how best to advise. Time management. No one likes a tardy person. It gets very irritating. I don't know, I feel I'm being tardy, I'm beyond my time. So yes, the rest, we have to have organization and discipline. She talked about planning your time and knowing what to do when. Some of you are probably going through WhatsApps now, but that's not the time for this. Teamwork, social capital is priceless. Make friends where you are. These people, I will tell you, my life is so easy because I'm able to call, if whatever office it is, frankly speaking, I'm able to call somebody, or I'm able to call someone who knows somebody. When I was making these contacts or building this social capital, I didn't think that this is how they would come in handy or helpful, but be a cordial person and a social person. Believe me, social capital is, you can't buy it, because some of these people I've known for 20 years, but along the way I have built these relationships. Please do not say hello to everybody in your class. Get to know them actually. We as human beings are so today minded. Maybe you see somebody and you think they are of importance because of the phone they have. Please get to know everybody in your class. Those social spaces are going to help you so much. Emotional intelligence, you're going to be a manager. Yeah. So understand EQ cannot be bought. That's emotional intelligence. Understand your team. We all have different values that we bring, even in your discussion group. So don't think because the other person talks a lot or they can quote 100 cases, that's who to listen to. Let's have emotional intelligence and use it at work. Know when to go to your boss or your manager for something. Read the room, emotional intelligence. Then people generally work with who they like. Yeah, it's human nature. So if you're in a law firm, it's a small space, and maybe your nose is in the air, or you're saying, "Don't move my book. I left my book here." You may not work so long with the people. So be cordial, be kind, be polite, be responsive. Someone asks a question or sends an email, definitely you have to prioritize. So you'll tell this person, I will get back to you within the course of today. I will get back to you, by 2 o'clock, but be responsive. Yeah. So my friends, the only way to start is to start. You might have gotten a lot of information, you're overwhelmed. Pick where to start. Maybe today I will start with time management. Today I will say hello to somebody I've not said hello, build my social capital. This may seem like a lot of information, but just start with what you can. So I'm ready to learn from you. As I said, I learned from that lady so much in that interview, which wasn't even tax related. So I'm sure there's a lot I can learn from you today. Thank you, Rebecca. Thank you, everybody, for listening in. I'm sorry if I was tardy, if I went beyond that time.
Thank you, Priscilla. We've learned so much from you. I wish I could say learned friend, but I guess I will just say friend.
Yes, Becky.
I think for me, my key highlight is that we are not silos, that the digital world may make us think that we can do everything by ourselves. But like you've pointed out, we need each other, and social capital is key. So let's keep talking to each other and not fix on social media and think that the people on social media are our friends, but we should have real friends. Yeah. I think there's one question for Diana here. Something about let me read it. How has the role of information security evolved with the increasing adoption of digital technologies in the banking industry? Diana, if you're still there, kindly give us a bird's eye view from where you sit, how that has changed.
Cool, thank you, Rebecca. I can answer that question twofold from my own experience and journey. I've been in the banking industry close now to 14 or so years. When I joined the bank, there was nothing like an information security unit. The expectation is that it was infused within the overall IT or infrastructure. So if someone was looking after servers, they had to take care of the antivirus. If you're in networks, the firewall, and any preventative mechanism you have at the perimeter was your responsibility. 5 or so years into the journey, that started to change, to say, you know what, people are getting smarter. There are people who are taking advantage of any loopholes you have within your ecosystem to kind and get away with any objective they want to get, whether it's disruption or financial. And that caused the organizations that had, any assets that they needed to protect. And at that time, it was a focus on finances. Be able to say, you know what, we need to create a role within technology still that, you know, looks after security and holds the other people accountable when they're not prioritizing it. Fast forward where we are, it's no longer just a financial driven kind of cyberspace to say that I'll only target financial institution. The value that, and we're talking about the digital age and information age. They said data is the new money. So the realization that whatever data you hold can break or make your business if not protected, then brought in this whole aspect of, you know, any information that any organization that deals with data that someone can use to either blackmail them or, you know, use it for any other purpose, or to have a security as a core of what they do. And what that then turned security into was no longer just a, you know, an IT function or the risk that came with it being a technology risk alone, but a business risk actually. That if I am faced with a cyber incident, it is not technology that suffers at the tail end, it's the business that suffers. It's your reputation, it's your ability to operate from a regulatory point of view. And that has kind of evolved how we are positioned in organization to say, we are critical part to say, with digital acceleration, with every organization, especially banks going digital and ensuring that they're getting services closer to the digital natives who just want to do everything on their tablets. Then how do we embed security in that? But how do we also give assurance to ourselves and to the customer that, you know what you're going to use is secure? That has evolved, has elevated our role in terms of criticality within the organization, but also has elevated it from a business standpoint to say, cyber risk is actually not owned by, say, the head of information security. It is owned by the CEO or MD of the organization. They're accountable for cyber risk. And with that, then, and with the acceleration we're seeing in digital, we know that that is going to continue to happen, where either the regulator will come and say that, you know what, you need an independent role, say, on your senior management that looks after information security. I can't go into what technology is doing to us in terms of trying to keep up, but we're also already applying artificial intelligence in our, you know, threat intelligence in our detection and prevention tools, because it's inevitable. You can't chase an AI-driven threat actor with your manual, you know, way of work and think you'll catch him. It doesn't take away the human element, but it's about how we use both to ensure that we are as accelerated in our journey and in our maturity as the threat actor is. Thank you.
Thank you, Diana. I think we'll have one question for you, Priscilla. There's a question here saying, what's the impact of emerging artificial intelligence on Uganda's data protection laws and regulations? Are they doing anything, like if someone were to sue and maybe they used an AI device to break the law, is there something in the law that would be able to catch them?
Okay, thank you very much. Thanks, Sharon, for that question. Yes, in our laws, actually, in the regulation, the protection of privacy, or the obligation to protect individuals' privacy on the data controller or on the is not, or on the data processor, is not limited to paper or manual information. It's also you're obliged to actually give the regulator your security protocols, your policy for AI, for even in your e-documentation, even for your electronic processes. You have to submit the policy. And if for some reason, for example, we store so much information. If you store so much information, say a health center stores all this information in whatever system they decided to use, whatever system they decide to use, and this information leaks, and it has happened before, and that's why some of these organizations I pointed out have been penalized world over. You're supposed to have protocols in your system to manage any leakage, to manage to control all the information, all the private information flow. And these policies are submitted to the regulator, that's the PDPO. Now the PDPO, in case there's a leakage, in case Priscilla, I find my health information that was uploaded, into whichever health center, I find it on a WhatsApp group, I will report this breach to the PDPO. So the PDPO will investigate, as they did with USE. And when the report comes out, that they breached the internal protocols, then 2, they breached the law, the privacy law, they will be penalized. So yes, the law is there, the regulations are there, and they have started to implement. So every organization, even you, Rebecca, I don't want to put you on the spot. If you're registered with the privacy regulator, if the students find their grades, wherever, then you're going to have to answer, because they will report a breach. I'm sure if you have registered with the privacy regulator, then you have submitted your policy, your internal policy. So yes, Sharon, the AI is actually regulated by our privacy law.
Thank you for that answer, Priscilla. Now we're just going to have a very...
Ananga, you need to come to my...
So I see somebody in the chat, Joshua.
James is asking the legal requirements and liabilities for businesses regarding the protection of personal data.
Okay.
But I think you've partly answered that.
Yes.
Cybersecurity measures under Uganda's data protection and cybersecurity laws. Maybe perhaps just to ask Diana if our data protection laws now include cybersecurity, if they've been updated to have that, because the last law I think I'm aware of is the Data Privacy Act of 2019. I don't know, Priscilla, if there's something new beyond that.
Okay, for data protection, we have spoken about the law. The cybersecurity is mainly today the Computer Misuse Act, which I believe the lawyers are very familiar with, and most organizations have the stringent cybersecurity policies, which you will be bound by. Whether you're working with that organization as a staff or as a partner, as a supplier, or as an external lawyer, look out for those cybersecurity policies. Joshua asked about what legal implications I foresee. I think I've responded to that with Sharon. Legally, we see probably a shift in cases. Before our cases, our litigation arose from the conservative contracting, but now, and we have seen people sue each other for privacy. Now there are some cases actually before commercial court for privacy concerns. So now you and I even have to take care of our stuff. Like if you have a helper at home, you're not free to share their phone number. So those are some of the emerging trends we see. We also see an enlightened judiciary, because now the judiciary is being skilled in blockchain, AI, Internet of Things, because the cases are coming to them in commercial court. And then you asked Joshua about the skills. They are to train more. Right now, the privacy managers are on market. So there are courses under IAPP. Let me type it in. International. So it is International Association of Privacy Practitioners, offers an array of courses. Either you want to train as a privacy practitioner in the US, Canada, UK, or generally. So there'll be a CIPM certificate of international privacy manager. There are an array of courses. And then for cybersecurity, there are also an array of courses you could do to specialize. I hope I've answered.
Yes, you have. Thank you. Yes, and in cybersecurity, I mean, there's lots of things. You can be a CISA, a CISO, and many other things to keep you up to date. And it's quite true that, yes, all organizations have ICT policies to help them ensure that people are reined in. So there are lots of questions coming in, but we have a very brief presentation